Welcome to Andy Staples on 3. Happy Friday. Maybe not so happy for UCLA. Yeah, the University of California Board of Regents, according to John Wilner on Thursday night, assigned some calimony. That's what we're calling it. Remember, UCLA leaves for the Big Ten. Cal's like, hey, wait a second. You're going to make way more money than us. That's not cool. So we're going to figure this out. $10 million a year UCLA has to pay Cal in calimony. That's my new favorite college football term. Calimony. $10 million just for the right to be in the Big Ten and not in the Pac-12. Listen, I have not been divorced, do not intend to be divorced, but man, it feels messy. It just feels messy. All right. We welcome our special guest because he was with us on Monday. We got started talking about Colorado and we could not stop. But we have other things to talk about with Phillip Dukes, with Dukes the Scoop. What's up, Dukes?
Andy, my guy, how you doing, man?
I am good. I am very glad it's a Friday morning. I'm ready to sail into this weekend. But when we finished on Monday, I was like, I had so many more questions because I wanted to talk to you about Auburn because you came up as an Auburn guy. You went to Auburn, you came up covering Auburn, and I had so many questions, and I was like, oh, crap, we didn't get to any of them. And so we got that. We got JuJu Lewis, quarterback from Georgia, going to visit Indiana. Like that came out on Thursday. So we got a lot to talk about, and I am just thrilled to get into it. And I also thought of you this week, and we haven't touched this topic this week because I've been waiting for it. But what Austin Rivers said about the NBA and the NFL players, like, we have to talk about that too.
Absolutely, for sure.
All right, let's start with the loveliest village on the plains, because when Cody Belair and I did the SEC ceiling and floor, we kind of both agreed that Auburn is probably a little more ready to compete than I think people realize. And my thing is the fact that Hugh Freeze retook the play calling and then they changed the rules so that Freeze can talk to the quarterback in his helmet now. Like, that is going to change their offense maybe even more than if they went out and got a transfer portal quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with that communication being there, I think you'll see like the Hugh Freeze literally telling guys where to go. Whether it's Payton Thorne, who's the starter, or it's one of the backups, he's going to tell you where to go with the ball. And he's now on the perimeter. They got so much better from last year when you think about bringing in a guy like Cam Coleman, when you think about a guy like Keandre Lambert-Smith from Penn State, and then the guy who nobody's really talking about is Robert Lewis, who came from Georgia State. And he's really a clone of Jamari Thrash, who left Georgia State and went to Louisville the previous year, who was going to go to Auburn before he went to Louisville. But I think that what they're doing on the perimeter with Hugh Freeze being able to actually just become Geppetto and, and I hate the puppet master, not to call the guy a puppet, but we'll say he's the guy pulling the strings. I think it's going to be really explosive.
I think Geppetto's the right way to describe it, because like I remember when Hugh Freeze was at Liberty and he had Malik Willis, like there were moments you could see Hugh Freeze on the sideline getting Malik Willis's attention, like one of those check with me plays where the whole offense looks back at the sideline. And Hugh Freeze would just be like pointing at a receiver, like throw to that guy. Like imagine you could say that without everybody else on the stadium seeing you.
Man, like when I was at Auburn, there was a guy named Larry Cash who played cornerback. Funniest guy out of Mobile, Alabama. Shout out to Cash Money. Man, so he was hurt and Auburn played Florida, and they literally was talking about his backup. Spurrier like did a sign like this to him, like, and it was a touchdown. They said, hey man, you see Spurrier touch his fingers, run. And that's pretty much what I think Hugh Freeze will be doing this year.
The problem with that era, since I know all the Spurrier hand signals, is everybody knew all the Spurrier hands. Like when you saw Spurrier, the quarterback, do this, you knew what it meant, but it didn't matter. You couldn't stop it.
Bro, like, how could you not stop it and you knew what was coming, dog?
Well, the thing is, at least with Spurrier, and I think Freeze is a lot like this too. There's a special gift for these coaches who, from the sideline, can see the matrix in terms of play calling. Like Spurrier, he had a few audible calls that would come in, and then a lot of times the quarterback could just see it. He'd been trained. If the quarterback ID'd it, he could do it himself too. Right. But you don't do that unless you know they can't stop it. So, like once Danny Werfel touched the top of his head, or once Rex Grossman did the tent the fingers thing, it's over. It's already over. You've already lost.
Hey, like that's what they said. They said, "Hey man, you better run. Like it ain't no back pedal, ain't no nothing. Run. They going at your top." And I think that's what Hugh Freeze is going to be able to do. And I think he has the horses to do it this year. I think when you think about what they added, even in the slot game, I talked to Auburn wide receivers coach Marcus Davis, and he's really excited about what the speed and the elusiveness that they have in the slot, which they really weren't able to expose last year or kind of display, excuse me. So I think now when you see them have like a full cabinet of receivers, like a really good battery of guys, that I think Payton Thorne does it like improve this year. And how big was that for Hugh Freeze to double down and say, "Dog, I'm not getting a $1 million quarterback. Like it's certain things I'm not going to pay for." And I like that because I'm a guy. I'm not paying for cable. I'm not. Like I don't care if I spend $200 in streaming services. I'm not paying for cable. It just doesn't feel right. And I think that's what
you are paying for. Like if you're paying for YouTube TV, you're still paying for cable. It's the same money to the same people.
It's the same thing with Coach Freeze, right? Because if you Cam Coleman wasn't cheap. I don't care what nobody say. So you're still doing it. I don't care. I don't know the numbers. I don't have any inside knowledge, but I know for a fact if it came down to Texas A&M and Auburn, he got a bag. And he's worth every penny of what he got. And if I wish I could be the guy to go renegotiate for more next year. They still paid. When you think about bringing in those transfer portal guys, he literally brought in when you think about Cam Coleman, the same receivers I just said.
Yep.
Ballparking it. You got to be thinking it's probably about around $1 million.
Well, and that's the thing. So this has been a major topic of discussion on the show this week because of what Brian Kelly said, and I brought in what Hugh Freeze said. Everybody thinks these schools have unlimited pools of money, especially the big ones, the SEC schools, the Big Ten schools, and they'll just spend more. But you've seen examples of it, like Texas saying to Dominic Williams and LSU saying to Dominic Williams, "Hey, that might be a little too much for us." But Oklahoma saying, "Okay, we'll do it." And then, like you said, the quarterback market. Now, I think if Dylan Gabriel had wanted to come to Auburn, Hugh Freeze would be like, "Yep, that's worth it. Let's call the collective." But basically, what was left after Gabriel goes to Oregon, Will Howard goes to Ohio State, Riley Leonard goes to Notre Dame. Like those are the three that you probably would be willing to pay for.
Right.
Everybody else, I just not worth the price tag. Like there's probably a price where you're willing to do it, but not at close to 7 figures, which is what like Matt Rule was saying. That's what the price was.
Yeah, and I think when you think about what Hugh Freeze knows about his offense and what he can get out of Payton Thorne. See, if you look at Payton Thorne when he had Kenneth Walker in the backfield, it's a totally different quarterback than what you saw last year. And there's a totally different offense. And I think that Hugh Freeze doubled down on knowing that, hey, there's more that I can get out of this guy. Like we weren't able to do everything because we were running a different offense. Last year, I was at the fight in Vegas, and Malik Willis, and I went to dinner with Malik Willis and Javante Davis, Ryan Garcia fight. And I asked Malik, I said, "Bro, like, what is the offense going to be like?" And he was like, "I don't know, because it's not the same offense I ran." From that moment, I knew that there was going to be some type of hybrid offense being ran between Phillip Montgomery and Hugh Freeze, and it looked like it was more Phillip Montgomery's than it was Hugh Freeze. So I think this year, what they sacrificed for the run concepts that Tulsa was able to provide, they'll make up for when they talk about the passing concepts and how Hugh Freeze really likes to get downfield. But his vertical attack is still based on a running game. So I think when you have guys like when you think about the running backs that Auburn has, that they weren't really able to showcase a lot last year, but this year they will. And now those spots, like it's almost like when you knew Georgia was going to play action to the fullback. I don't care what it was. But they ran the ball so well that when they went play action to the fullback, it was a touchdown or a 10-yard first down, whatever it was. With Auburn this year, there are going to be those plays. Like, can you imagine 3rd and 4 this year, Payton Thorne just run the slant to Cam Coleman
Well, let's answer John's question. John, very happy with the phrase that he's introduced into the show vernacular on Monday. What does it matter how good the wide receivers are when Payton Thorne is Mariah Carey ass? Like, it matters, one, because Payton Thorne's not that bad. It matters because the quarterback is better when he has better receivers. And Dukes, explain Cam Coleman to the people, because I've explained Jeremiah Smith to the people. Cam Coleman is in the same bucket here of freshman receiver who can come in and immediately make an impact.
AJ Green. He's AJ Green all over again to me. When I talk to the DBs who are at Auburn, they're like, hey, man, he's a freak. You know, and the vernacular, like, you know, in recruiting circles in college football is when you talk to coaches, they say freak show. He is a freak show. He can do everything. He has a great 40 time. He makes the contested catches. You see the one-hander right there. He's a smart, and what people don't realize is he's smart and he works really hard. He's a weight room junkie, and he's also one of the type of guys he's not going to say a whole lot, but when he does say something, people listen, and he's going to be a guy that impacts the locker room because of how he plays and how he carries himself. So he's one of those guys. He was a have-to-have type guy, and he can raise the level of play. Even though he's a wide receiver, he can raise the level of play across the entire offense. And I think a lot of people make a lot about saying, when we talk about football, do you win championships because of your receivers? But he's the type of guy that helps you win a championship.
Well, and that's the thing, because you say, oh, he's a freshman. What can he do? And then you're talking about the intangible stuff, the being able to say stuff in the locker room. He's going to be good enough right away that older players are going to respect what he has to say. Like, sometimes freshmen come in and talk, and the older players are like, whatever. But there have been freshmen who've come in and immediately commanded the respect of the locker room. Like, I remember when Tebow got to Florida, he's in the weight room, and he's like, they're doing like the towel tug of war drill, and he's, I want Marcus Thomas. Marcus Thomas is a defensive tackle. And like the whole team's like, oh, this is a real one here.
Yeah.
So,
man, but and for the people that are listening for Auburn, the last guy that I heard that had a story like that at Auburn was KJ Britt. KJ Britt is a true freshman. He goes in, there's a defensive lineman in the locker room that touches on that, you know, they pat the guys on the head like, hey, all right, son. And when they get to KJ Britt, he slaps his hand away and says, bro, you are not my dad. And just looks him dead in the eye. And so, you know, I'm telling a little more now than it's been out. But they say he grabbed to choke the guy. And from that moment on, they knew that KJ Britt was one of those guys. And you see him doing well in the NFL, and he's a super respectful kid. But to the original point, when you're able to command respect at a young age, that's not just for that year. That sets the kind of sets the momentum going forward. It sets the culture for what's to come. And I think Cam Coleman was not just a great on-field addition, but what he adds off the field is going to be amazing.
Ryan in the chat. Now do Ryan Williams. I'm happy with our guy. Ryan, not Ryan Williams, but Ryan in our chat is an Alabama fan. Yeah, I'd say both of them wound up with very good freshman wide receivers, Alabama and Auburn. The difference is Alabama's had them. Like, Alabama's had a long line of them. Like, I am trying, Dukes, to remember the last time I've heard people at Auburn this excited about a receiver. And like when Duke Williams transferred from JUCO, that was pretty, and he was very good. But I just don't feel like there's been this level of excitement, really. I mean, since I'm thinking back to even when I was in college, I don't remember that.
I mean, the guy who had the most hype as a recruit that I can remember was Nate Craig Myers. Had a huge amount of hype.
Yeah, but he didn't live up to it. And then you know, you were talking about them in the slot and the talent in the slot. Now, like, Anthony Schwartz would have been a dangerous weapon in the slot. He was maybe the fastest player in college football, but I don't feel like they ever got the most out of him.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the type of offense, like, even when Gus Malzahn's offense was clicking on all cylinders, you still didn't get a whole lot out of wide receiver, and there wasn't the ability in that offense to really run the entire route tree. Now, they did run a lot of routes, but when you look at as far as the post corner, double moves. Like, it was always something that was going to get you open deep and after you've taken the shot, but nothing like a really progressive read type offense. So I think that that's part of the reason, because Auburn has always been so good and predicated on the run, that you didn't really see that in the offense. And I think hopefully, when you look at Hugh Freeze's offense and the wide receivers that he's had traditionally and historically, I think that this will be the year that Auburn kind of puts it together. And I don't think they invested so heavily in wide receivers if they don't plan to use them.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, let's go back to Hugh Freeze at Ole Miss. Think about Laquan Treadwell, A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf. Like, Laquan didn't end up being a good NFL receiver, but he's a great college receiver. And then AJ and DK just kept on going. Like, that's what made them so. Think about because Bo Wallace, and Hugh will tell you, Bo Wallace was critically important to what they did at Ole Miss even after Bo Wallace left, because it allowed them to run the offense and set up what they wanted to set up. But you're right, it was more what they put around the quarterback than the actual quarterback. Because you're talking about Bo Wallace and Swag Kelly. And Swag Kelly's still tearing it up in the CFL, but he wasn't an NFL first-round quarterback. Right. Yet their offense terrified everybody.
Yeah, and I think just understand it. Like, I think those are great comparisons, because I think Payton Thorne can be that for Auburn. What I saw out of Payton Thorne last year was a lot of uncertainty. There were some panic situations, and there were some things where it just looked like, this doesn't feel right. And a lot of times when you see quarterbacks hold on to the ball, it doesn't feel right. When you go pick up a basketball and you turn the ball over, it's usually because you're in an unfamiliar situation. And I think it's the same thing when you're the trigger man playing quarterback. When you're in an unfamiliar situation, you see a look that you don't like, you don't have a receiver that's getting as open as you would have liked them to, then you kind of hold on to the ball, and people start to kind of judge who you are as a quarterback based on your circumstances. So now we get to see a real test of, we really got a piece of litmus paper to say, is Payton Thorne a serviceable SEC quarterback? And we'll learn that this year.
And it also felt like they were better when they baked a little bit of Payton Thorne running into the game plan. And it felt like that was kind of a week-to-week thing. And like you said, it was clearly Philip Montgomery's offense. We've heard Hugh Freeze talk about it since then, where he said he tried to get more involved, but he didn't want to be too heavy-handed because it wasn't his terminology. It wasn't his stuff. Now it is his stuff. And all right, I'm going to ask you this, as a guy who went to Auburn, who's followed Auburn very closely. What is it about Auburn that makes people who are really good at calling plays go, no, I'm not going to call plays anymore, even though it's the thing I'm best at?
I think it's the pressure in recruiting. I think it's understanding that you like how much it takes in order to be a successful play caller. I think it takes you away from the recruiting prowess, the recruiting process. And I think that when you're recruiting against Georgia and Alabama every year, your two main rivals are those guys. You got to get guys. And I'm always going to be a Jimmy's and Joe's guy. And I think they are too. They're like, hey, look, offense is cool, but I can get somebody to do that. If I have the guys, it won't matter if I'm calling it. And I think Hugh Freeze gambled on that last year. And then you bring in a guy who's highly respected, like Phillip Montgomery, who had a long tenure at Tulsa. You don't step, like, there's a respect factor that you don't step on a guy on the shoes of a guy like that.
He's got his offense, yeah.
Yeah, you don't do that. So I think when you bring in those high-level guys, now with Gus Malzahn, I just think he was just married to it. Like, he was like, hey, I don't care. I don't chip. Any offensive coordinator he had was basically just like a clipboard holder. And I think what was really telling about that was when you saw Rhett Lashley go to Connecticut to be as a lateral move, from Auburn to Connecticut, it kind of showed you and told you what was going on behind the scenes. And I love Gus Malzahn. A lot of people give me flack about it because I really liked it, because what I liked about Gus was when he got you. And he was going to take a sledgehammer to the ant, B2A, belt to AWS. That's what he was going when he got you. And I think there's a lot of Hugh Freeze in, like, I think they're friends because they have a lot of similarities. Okay, Andy, I got one for you. I'm not sure if you saw, I saw you at the Senior Bowl, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there was a coach from New Mexico State. He was a defensive coach there. I don't know his name, but he was so cool. We talked for a while. And he talked about having Auburn's number or having Hugh Freeze's number, because I think they played them the year before when they were at Liberty.
They beat them last year. New Mexico State beat the hell out of Auburn last year.
Yep, and the year before, I think they beat them at Liberty too. New Mexico, when Liberty was having that great run. Yeah, and I think that when you have, there are certain triggers in offenses that if one of those valves goes bad, then it's a bad day all around. And so I think if Hugh Freeze can figure out how to patch that flat, so to speak, I think it's going to be like a really good year. But I think as we'll say about Auburn coaches, they always have this valve, and if something isn't working, then they have a horrible offensive day. And so we'll see if they can change this year.
Yeah, the thing with Freeze, though, is like his offense scared Saban. Like we haven't, like Kiffin's offense, which is right now is actually closer to what Philip Montgomery ran, because Kiffin's offense is based on the old Bryles-Baylor offense. But that offense didn't scare Saban, didn't scare Kirby. As we've talked about, they've played it a bunch of times. Heupel beating Saban 2 years ago is the only time that it's beaten them. But Hugh Freeze beat Saban twice at Ole Miss. Like this offense freaks Saban out. And that's where it's different. That's where I think it's really interesting, because now you're back to that. You're doing it with the level of talent you have at Auburn. But yeah, you're right. There are certain offenses. Like I go back to like when Mike Leach was at Washington State, and those offenses were so good. But Jimmy Lake was the DC at Washington, and they could never do anything against Washington. Jimmy Lake shut them down every time.
Yeah, I mean, and I always reference pickup basketball because I think it's really relatable, because anybody can go grab a basketball and go hoop. So there are certain guys that you play like. So I'm a 5'8" point guard, and I'm kind of stocky, right? Or there are going to be guys that just give me problems just because they do. So if I see a longer guy, really quick guy, 6'1", with long arms, he's going to give me issues. I don't care how many crossovers I got. I don't care if my jump shot is working that day. I'm going to have problems with that guy because his style of play is going to bother me regardless of what court we play on. And I think it's the same thing when it comes to football. Like boxing, styles make fights, right?
Oh yeah. Roy
Jones was beating the hell out of everybody in the world, but Antonio Tarver, if he saw him, it was like he owed him money. And I think it's the same thing when it comes to college football and these offenses. But I think that's what makes the game great, is because like you can scare Nick Saban, but New Mexico State is licking their chops. That's crazy.
It is unbelievable. And that's why you try to do what Georgia does, where you can be a lot of different things. You can beat people a lot of different ways because you just have better players. And look, if you want to take away our deep shots, that's cool. We'll just run it right down your throat. Alabama can do that too. Ohio State can do that. Like that's the ultimate, that's the goal. That's what you're trying to get to, that level of talent. But it's hard to do. There aren't many schools that can do that. But I also get excited when I see these offenses that were designed to be run with a talent deficit when they're run with the most. Because like that was the thing when Urban Meyer came to Florida from Utah. Like everybody's like, well, you're not going to be able to run that offense in the SEC. And I'm like, but he's going to have SEC players running it. So is it going to look different? Or when Saban went up tempo, like when he's like, fine, if we're going to do this, I'm going to do this. Like it was a totally different world.
When Paul Johnson went to the ACC, right? When nobody thought that he was going to be able to do that, like coming out of Georgia Southern, going to Navy, and then going to Tech, right? But he had Tech players running that same offense. And did he spoil some of the careers of some great wide receivers? Possibly. But man, was Georgia Tech fun to watch when they got it rolling. And the thing is, like when you play the triple option, like you always talk about like reading your keys. If you don't understand your keys, you're gonna lose that game. But with the athleticism that the SEC and ACC defenses have, when you do play your keys, if you have it up here, you're going to be able to stop that offense. But
there was a bowl game. I think it was a Peach Bowl. Yeah, where the Paul Johnson Georgia Tech team played LSU. Lights out. Because the triple option's great until everybody hits the dive man, hits the quarterback, hits the pitch man. And LSU had a D tackle who was throwing one of Georgia Tech's guards into the mesh between the quarterback and the dive man. Every play, it was a bloodbath.
Bro, you know who was like the best triple option quarterback I saw in high school?
Who's that?
Matt Harper.
Oh, that dude. This is a preview of a discussion we're going to have. We got to talk a little recruiting, but we're going to talk about what Austin Rivers said about how many NBA players play in the NFL. Matt Harpring. So for those who don't remember, Matt Harpring wound up being one of those sharpshooters in the NBA who would set up in the corner and just nail threes all day.
Yep. Yeah, Matt Harper was so cold, man. He played at Marist High School. They're famous for the triple option. Lee Torrance. I played middle school ball at St. Pius, so I was always looking at what Marist was doing. And man, when you saw that big tall guy out there running it, man, you could not stop him once he got started. So yeah, I think I'll save a little bit of that for when we get to that part of the discussion.
Oh yeah. No, but when you got the right guy running the triple, like our high school rival, which beat the hell out of us every year, Lake Brantley High School, they had a guy named D Brown who was their quarterback when I was playing. D played like 8 years in the NFL as a running back, and you couldn't do anything to that. Like there's nothing. We were helpless, and we had decent players, but helpless against that guy. So you're exactly right. All right, speaking of quarterbacks. And being the right guy and being the guy for the program. This is a really interesting situation in your neck of the woods. So JuJu Lewis, class of 2025 quarterback. I believe in the On3 industry rankings, he's the number 2 quarterback in the 25 class behind Bryce Underwood, who's going to LSU. So JuJu's been committed to USC since last August. But everybody you talk to, you get the sense that not even USC is confident he's going to wind up at USC. He's looking at a bunch of different places. He's now set an official visit for Indiana. Yeah. How does that come to pass?
So the first college coach that kind of identified JuJu was a guy named Tino Sanseri.
Sal's kid.
Yep. He was an analyst at Alabama, and he identified JuJu when he was like 8 years old. And JuJu, what people don't realize about him is, even though like he's like a trained assassin when it comes to being a quarterback, like he's always been trained to be the guy, he really makes meaningful relationships, especially in those formative years. So he never forgot the attention that Tino was able to show him. And so I think that wherever Tino was going to go, that's where he was going to be. And he just happened to go to Indiana. And this is something people haven't been talking about with Indiana. And when it comes to NIL, follow the basketball money, because if you got money in basketball, even if it may not be a traditional football school, you can find the money for the right people. You're seeing it happen at Arkansas, you're seeing it happen at Kentucky, and it's going to happen at Indiana, because Indiana has basketball money for sure. And now for the type of guy like Julian Lewis, they will find the money for Julian Lewis. And I think Cignetti is one of those guys. He ain't playing, bro. Like, so
Curt Cignetti is not. We had him on the show when he was at James Madison last year. And you're like, this dude does not mess around. And he got there, and like I remember, because he's at the basketball game talking to the crowd, and you're like, okay, he's gonna talk some crap about Purdue, and then we'll all go home. He's aiming at Ohio State. He ain't talking about Purdue. Like,
no,
whoa, all right.
I think even him, I think this official visit is big, because I talk to college coaches all the time, and sometimes you have a measured amount of official visits to use every year, and now you got to use them for the transfer portal as well. So you never let a guy come on campus, and what they call in recruiting circles is practicing. If it's a guy that you know that you can't get, you don't do that. It's like, nah, bro, like I'm not finna practice on this guy. They ain't practicing. I think Cignetti really understands like what they have going on. It's like, dog, if they didn't think, I don't think Julian Lewis takes this visit unless he told them they have a real shot at getting them. And I think he's the type of guy, his dad, TC, like they're trendsetters. Like even back in the day, like some of the training that JuJu was doing, the amount of time that they put into him, it was for this moment for him to be a transformative type player. And could you imagine JuJu in that offense, dog? Come on.
Oh yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Jordan McLeod was the quarterback in that offense. We actually talked about Jordan McLeod yesterday. Jordan's going to be at Texas State this year, but Jordan McLeod was the offensive player of the year in the Sun Belt in that James Madison offense. Throw that picture back up there, River. So this is a photo of, I believe, 8-year-old JuJu Lewis at Florida State with a very young Tino Sanseri. So here's how the family tree goes. Sal Sanseri, longtime assistant coach, worked with Nick Saban in Alabama, worked with Jimbo Fisher at Florida State. Tino, his son, played quarterback at Pitt and went into coaching. Vinny, his other son, played safety at Alabama and is now a DB's coach at Washington. So that's where all that tree comes from. But that is a picture of Tino Sunseri with JuJu Lewis at 8 years old. So yeah, the relationship is definitely there. Steve Wiltfong published that picture yesterday. And so here's my question to you, Dukes, because we had this discussion on the show yesterday, and I'm curious about this too, because we were talking about when they change the way athletes get paid from this current NIL structure to it coming from the schools, like, will it drop coaches' salaries? And I said, the really good head coaches, it's not going to change their salaries at all, but it might change kind of the replacement level guys. For assistants, I think the guys that are in danger of getting a pay cut are the assistants who are deemed quote unquote good recruiters because they were either bagmen or bagman adjacent. But I still think, like, when all the money's kind of equal at different places, the relationships like that matter. So I still think the assistants who can develop those relationships are going to be valuable.
Yeah, I think the money's going to come from the off-field staff once they realize, like, what's really important. Like, how do you get a guy? Is it the guy who you're going to talk to in the office or the guy you're going to talk to on the field? And I think that makes a huge difference. And when a guy who actually understands the offense can tell you what you're doing wrong, can identify what you're doing in high school and how that really plays into what you'll be doing in college. The guys who have those off the field, like you look at what Texas A&M just did when they let go of, like, they let go of a equipment guy. I think he had been there 30 years. Like, a lot of the administrative features that go along with running a top-tier program, I think they're going to start trimming there early, and I think you'll just see that trickle down to the field. But like you said, I think you cannot replace those relationships, because without that relationship, Julian Lewis ain't going to Indiana without that relationship. He's not even going there for, like, to go see Universal Circus. I don't care who's in town. He wouldn't be going. And so now when you see the power of relationships, you have to take that into consideration when you think about the salaries and where to put your money when it comes to kind of structuring out the new structure of how people will be paid.
That's exactly. I brought this up yesterday because we were talking about off-field staff. And so when Billy Napier got to Florida, he vastly expanded Florida's off-field staff. Now, this is NIL 6 months old at this point. Nobody's really sure how it's going to work. So he tries to do just what Alabama did and just what Georgia did. If you had put all the money for the salaries of those people into just a pool to pay players, Florida would have a much better team right now.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like, Auburn got so many people on like in the off field. I don't like, they got like 2 or 3 general managers. Like, I don't know who does what. And I know a lot of those guys, and I think they really do a really good job. But they're all really specifically segmented for what portion of the operation they run. And I just think that, in the NIL era, you can afford to do that now because you have to have specific people, because nobody knows, like, we're still in the infancy stages. When you think about the total landscape of college football, NIL's only been here for a couple of years, dog. Like, it's not like, and we talk about it as if it's been a long-standing establishment in college football, but it's still brand new. So you had to throw more resources off the field in order to try to help navigate the landscape. So as more and more of that, but the good thing about that is guys are going to be able, the same way that college coaches are going upward and downward, or it could be a lateral move when you talk about the NFL, when you have more opportunities. I think that's the good part, is they're getting that type of experience. So if you do have off-field guys, those roles do translate well to the NFL as well.
Well, yeah, and they're going to be different off-field roles. Like, I think we're seeing it now. There's a few college football teams that have a quote-unquote capologist, but nobody's officially titling that person that. They're just, this is the person who manages the NIL, manages that spreadsheet. The NFL absolutely has people who do that. Like, here's how our money's designed to flow out over the next 5 years. We're going to lose this guy, this guy, this guy. Here's how much we can afford. Here's who's going to be available. Here's who we should be looking at. Like, that sort of thing is going to come mainstream in college football probably the next year or two.
Yeah, and I think evaluation is going to be huge. You're going to see more money thrown into scouting because you cannot afford to miss with the money. I think, and it's the same way that the NFL puts a premium on scouting. You're going to see that follow. You're going to see that translate to college football as well, because like now, you got so many guys, you can recruit more than you need. The rosters are a little larger. It's a lot of stuff you can do. When the money starts coming out, anytime you put a price tag behind somebody, and you know what they're getting, it like the production has to be there. And I don't think people are going to I think people are going to hold these guys to an even higher standard when you know what they're getting, and it's directly even now there's like a veil of mystery about what people are actually getting. When it becomes public knowledge what a guy's getting, hey, you're talking about an 18, 19-year-old, why'd you give him that money? And fan is short for fanatic, and there is not one more fanatical sport in the world, probably outside of soccer, than college football. They are absolutely insane, and I think it's going to get crazy.
Well, and that's the thing. Because the NFL, they don't have to release the numbers, the salary numbers. The agents, the players, and the teams don't have to. This is private business. It seems like they've all agreed that they're going to leak all this stuff, and it works better for them to have it out in the open. I imagine, because a lot of these are the same type of people. It's the same agents that represent a lot of the best college players. We're probably going to see that. Us learning what Damian Martinez was going to make at Oregon State is the tip of the iceberg. It's going to be more public knowledge. And okay, let's get back to the original JuJu Lewis conversation. So he has an official visit scheduled to Indiana. He's going to do one to USC, where he's been committed. He's also looking at Auburn and also looking at Colorado. Where do you think he winds up?
Man, I ain't gonna lie, man. For whatever reason, I think it's going to be either Auburn or Colorado, to be honest. And I think it's going to come down to the best fit. I was talking to some guys, and they were like, Julian has a aura about himself, and right now his NIL evaluation on the On3 NIL, the tool they use, it's $1 million right now. Nobody else has it. He's just a special guy. I think he already has some ties with agents already. He's a big time prospect, not just. He literally has a deal with Travis Scott already, dog. He's different, and what I think is going to be fit. What program can take that type of personality on the way in, or that type of the aura that goes along with him, that type of glow? Who is set up to bring in a type of guy like that and able to handle the media covers, able to handle the locker room experience when you bring in a guy who has all this fanfare about himself? So that's why I think outside one of the intangible reasons that I think Colorado has a real shot at him is because they're structured to take that type of media, and Deion is a guy who can actually say, hey, this is how you deal with this. When they start doing this, you move this way. Hey, don't let the camera see you doing this. And I don't think anybody else will have that type of experience. But I also think being close to home, Auburn with the cachet of receivers that they have and wanting to play winning football, I think they're going to be really attractive to him too. So that's just my prediction. And I think he could end up at USC. You never know. USC is nothing like, I never thought they were going to get Jordan Addison that year until they got him. So you just never know with USC.
Well, as someone who's never, ever won the draw for Travis Scott Jordans, I do want to see some Cactus Jack cleats, with that reverse swoosh.
Ooh,
you got to go to USC or Colorado for that. You can't you can't go to Auburn. They're Under Armour. So, but yeah, that would be be something. Because they make the Jordan 1 cleats now. You can get those. Those are easy to find.
Hold on. I got to tell you something, Andy. All right, so we talking about classic shoes, right?
Right.
So if you go on eBay, and this is for everybody who loves tennis shoes, if you buy shoes older than 10 years old, they literally explode. This is one of the most exclusive Nikes in the world, bro. Do you remember Air Raids?
Oh, hell yeah. I had those. So I had the black ones. Remember the Charles Barkley commercial with the all black? So that's what I wore my entire freshman year of high school. It was like coming to school in work boots.
So they only made 200 pair of this colorway, right? In 2004. Yeah. Philadelphia Phillies. This is sweet, right?
Oh yeah,
bro. I'm at one of the biggest football games in the state of Georgia on the sideline, and my shoe explodes.
Oh no!
Yeah, man. I paid, and they were a 2004 edit. I paid a lot of money on eBay for them. I'm like, oh my God, these are killer. Everybody's like going crazy. Like, Dukes, where you get those? Where you get those? And so for anybody else, if you buy those type of shoes and you want to get that nostalgia, they're not for your feet. They're for the shelf.
They are. Oh, Marco in the chat reminds me, our Auburn is going to Nike. That's right. We don't have to worry about that. So
yeah, 25. Man, can you imagine what they're gonna do with the Bo Jacksons and the Barclays?
Oh, the Air Trainer SC. I had them. I had them in the Auburn colors.
Man, bro, I got 2 pairs sitting in here right now, and I probably got the sweetest pair of, man. I wish I could get it, bro. I got the New York All-Star game from 2013 Bo Jacksons, where they say Bo Jackson at the bottom. They're with an ice bottom. They're so crazy. And the only pair doper than that would either be the original Air Trainer SC with the 34 on the back on the Raiders colors, or the broken bats with the digitized Bo Jackson breaking the bat over his knee. They're so cold, bro. They are amazing.
So I had the originals, which were Auburn colors with the gray nubuck around the side. And that was, I begged my mom for those shoes. Like, those were my favorite. That pair, and then the Air Flights, the all gray nubuck Air Flights that the Jim Jackson, Lawrence Funderburk, Ohio State teams wore. Which so I hosted a radio show with Jim Jackson one time, and I mentioned that those were my favorite basketball shoes growing up. And he goes, we hated those shoes. We lost every time we wore them.
Man, man, can I get you one crazy pair of shoes I got?
One, yeah, I'll talk while you go get the shoes. Listen, I didn't know this was going to evolve into sneakerhead discussion, but that's all right. This is where we go with Dukes, because this is actually a good preview for what we're going to talk about, because we are going to talk about what Austin Rivers said. Where he said he thinks 30 NBA players could play in the NFL right now. And we've got Ant-Man youth football highlights to show you. We've got some Allen Iverson high school highlights to show you. I'm fascinated about this discussion. All right, Dukes is back. What we got, Dukes?
All right, so my favorite football player outside of Bo Jackson was Barry Sanders. The original Air Zoom Turfs, right? Crazy, right? Okay, boom. And here go the Bo Jacksons I was telling you about. Bro, All-Star game.
Those are gorgeous.
Bo Jackson at the bottom, bro. How crazy are those?
So those Air Zoom Turfs, I was talking about this with somebody the other day. So when I was a freshman at Florida, you land in New Orleans for the Sugar Bowl. And, at the time, you're playing on grass. You don't have a indoor practice facility. There's no turf on campus. So all we'd ever practice on is grass. The only turf stadium that you played in the SEC at that time was Vanderbilt. So they didn't have, like, especially me, who wasn't on the travel team because I was a freshman, like, we didn't all have turf shoes. So they gave us new turf shoes, and it was those Air Zoom Turfs.
Oh, wow.
When we got to New Orleans, so we could practice at the Superdome right when we got off the plane. So we get off the plane, bus takes us to the Superdome. Those are in our lockers. And so I put mine on, and I'm like, I'm feeling good. And now, as you just picked one of those pairs up, they're heavy as hell. Like, they never do that now. But I thought I looked like $1 million. And the thing was, like, I'm a redshirting freshman. I'm a scout team guy. I'm not playing in the game. So when practice ends, I'm like, okay, we're practicing at Saints facility the rest of the week.
Right. So
I'll be in my cleats. So I'm taking these with. I'm taking these with. Sure. And I'm gonna walk around New Orleans in these all week. So we get to the part where they give you the per diem, like when we get to the hotel, which I didn't know about. Like, I didn't know they were just gonna hand me an envelope full of cash. Like, I was like, oh, this is legal? Okay, cool. Because they hand, it's for, buying, it's for buying meals when you're on the trip. And so teammates that are going out to Ruth's Chris, they're all trying to get hooked up. I'm like, I'm broke books for my spring semester, so I'm gonna keep most of this money.
Right.
So I ate every meal that wasn't served to us. I ate every meal at the Popeyes on Canal Street because $8 to go. Here's the problem with those shoes and Popeyes. So if you can grab those turf shoes and show the sole to the camera. Show the bottom of the sole. So see these little nubbins, these little dots there. Those are designed to grip old AstroTurf, like the old AstroTurf that was basically concrete.
Oh yeah, that's a good shot right there. Yeah.
Do not walk into a Popeyes where the floor is covered in grease in those shoes. You see the cartoons where the guy steps on a banana peel? That was me.
Oh man, golly. Damn, Andy, feet in the air, huh? I'm crying.
Listen.
Damn.
I played it off.
Okay.
I played it off.
I know you did.
I was like,
I know you did.
I'm gonna need a 4-piece. Extra biscuits.
Bro, hey, have you ever been to Copeland's in Atlanta?
No.
So like the guy who created Popeyes created like a New Orleans cuisine, like sit down.
Copeland's the sit down. Yes, I have been to a Copeland's before. Not the one in Atlanta.
Did you know they were paying people from Popeyes?
I did not know that.
Yeah, dog. So man, when you go there and you order the chicken at Copeland's, they give you half a chicken. It's like half of a. It's like the most premium Popeyes you've ever had, dog. You got to try it, man.
Okay, well, I realize we're off topic here, but I'm gonna throw one more thing at everybody.
Okay.
This is a secret. This is a hack. This is the real ones know this.
Okay.
If you go to Joe's Stone Crab in Miami.
Okay.
So Joe's Stone Crab on Miami Beach, one of the most famous restaurants in Miami, you're not getting out of there for less than like $200 if you're ordering crab.
Right.
There's fried chicken on the menu.
What? It's
like $8. It is some of the best fried chicken you will ever eat. And the reason they do that is the founder wanted it to be a restaurant where everybody could go. He wanted something on the menu that everybody could afford to order. The thing is, though, it is some of the best fried chicken you will ever eat in your life. It is worth every penny. So by all means, if you're going to Joe's Stone Crab and you're going to do it up, get the crabs, get some drinks, but get some fried chicken too.
Man, I can't. I'm going. I'm 1,000% going. And I usually stay.
I want to see the picture of you in the bib, like cracking claws. Yeah. So, all right. We have one more thing to talk about because this is one that I was holding for when I got to talk to you because I saw this statement and I was like, oh my God. I can take 30 players right now from the NBA and throw them in the NFL. You can't take 30 NFL players and put them in the NBA. That is Austin Rivers, son of Doc, former NBA guard, played at Duke. You probably dislike him because of that. Okay. Couple things. You cannot put 30 players from the NBA in the NFL right now. Not happening.
Right.
But you also couldn't put that many NFL players in the NBA. Like, I'm with Austin Rivers in that the NBA is the hardest league to get a spot in, that it requires the most specific level of skill, that basically the good NBA players right now are aliens, absolute aliens.
Yeah.
But think about this. Think about putting like Luka or just basically any good NBA player on a football field and telling him go block the average NFL outside linebacker.
It's so much nuance and technique in the game now. Like right now, like people like probably see like if you follow me on Twitter, you saw I posted a picture of my son the other day like running the slant. Like he's got like the way they do things now in football, not even just NFL, like even to go D1, the level of technique that goes along with it. It's not just go get a football. I used to always say that baseball players were bred, not born, because it was such an expensive sport, and that you had to have
the skill
training. It was skill. You could be a rep guy and do it. Now you have to have the talent and be a rep guy. In the NBA, I think the way he posted was a little bit disrespectful by just being able to say how he did it. But the reason I think there's some validity to what he said is because the amount of sheer slots on a roster, let's just take a NFL active Sunday roster. You got 53 slots. Okay, cool. That's 53 chances for 53 different body types. And in the NBA, it's a quarter of that. So you have to damn near win the genetic lottery to go to the NBA in some type of way.
Exactly. And that's the thing, like, especially this NBA. Like, I think like Julius Peppers, who played basketball and football at North Carolina. Like Julius Peppers probably could have played power forward in the 90s, early 2000s NBA. He would have fit in fine. He wouldn't now because you have to be 6'10". You have to be able to make threes. You have to be able to handle. Like, that's the part that amazes me the most about the current NBA players, Dukes, is like, so there's that kid at your school who you saw who never was without a basketball. Like, he was like, from the age of 3 on, you never saw him without a basketball. His handles were incredible, but he was probably like 5'8". Like, the problem now with the NBA and the barrier to entry is there are 7-footers whose handles are better than that kid's.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, there's nothing you can really do with a guy that tall. And it like, so I saw Wemby last year at Summer League in his first game, and I'm sitting, and one of my buddies got me some 4 seats, so I'm sitting next to guys like who play with the Spurs, because that's kind of the thing to do is you go check out the young guys, and they were just talking about how freakish he was. Like, they're like, bro, like, he don't want to shoot the ball, but if they make, like, they were like, shoot it, you got to shoot it. But all they kept talking about was that everything that he could do with a basketball was something that you had never seen before. Seeing this guy up close and personal, he's an alien, bro. Like, a real live alien. Like, there are guys like Ant-Man. Ant-Man is an alien. Like.
Well, let's
right now,
speaking of Ant-Man, let's watch Ant-Man playing football. Here is Ant-Man at 11 years old. This video was posted by Ant-Man himself when he was 11. These are his highlights with the Atlanta Vikings Pop Warner team. This dude could play. Like, can you imagine? Now, Ant-Man's only 6'4", so like he would physically fit in somewhere on the football field. Like, can you imagine if Ant-Man had walked out when he was at Georgia to Kirby Smart and been like, find somewhere for me?
Man, look, and you know, a lot of people say, well, he'll be a wide receiver. Ant-Man could be a running back, bro. He really, think about this. Look at his frame.
He could be Eddie George.
Bro, he could, I say Brandon Jacobs. Like, he's like, he really has that type of frame. Like, if he did football training, he could wear 245 pounds easily in that frame, dog. He's still a baby. Like, when you look at his, like, he has real live, outer-worldly athleticism. And it's not just Pop Warner. Man, his freshman year before he stopped playing football at Thurl High School in Atlanta, bro, and Thurl's not, like, you know, they're one of those inner city schools where the suburban schools always go poach there. Like, it's like where you get the inner city kids and you go out, and, you know, like, even where I'm from, like the South Side, like, you'll go get kids from that part of Atlanta. Ant was that kid. And what people, a lot of people may not know, like, the Atlanta Vikings is what birthed the Atlanta Ducks, which is like pretty much the most winning Little League football team, and it almost, I don't know in the nation, but definitely in Georgia. The program through 3 age groups had 30 D1 players in the last 2 years. So Ant-Man was really that guy.
Well, and Ant-Man, so he's 6'4", his wingspan's 6'9". And you mentioned he could carry 245. If he could carry like 250, 255, can you imagine him coming off the edge?
Come on, dog. And he's nasty. Like, he's got that mean streak. Like, now, if I had to take one guy, okay, let's do this, Andy. You draft, let's draft 3 players from the NBA to the NFL.
Okay.
All right, you go first.
I got a former NBA player I got video of. I'll show you right now. This is my number 1 pick. This is the guy I'm sure would have been able to make it in the NFL if he'd have gone that way. So let me let's show you this guy. Let's see if you can guess who this is. So here's, I don't know if he's returned an interception or a punt here for a touchdown, but here's the play where I'm like, oh, this guy would have been just fine. All right, here we go. Boom! That's Allen Iverson. That's Allen Iverson playing safety.
Yeah, honorary College Park guy, man. Like, for real, Bubba Chuck, he's very well known where I'm from. Man, as soon as you see him, I said, oh, yeah, that's Bubba Chuck, dog. Like, we watched this because he was really, like, the guy that everybody wanted to be like. And, yeah, he could, like, if you mean to tell me you don't think Allen Iverson could have played corner or a slot guy, you see he's very physical. Even the way he played in the NBA, it showed you what he could have been. I think Draymond Green could have, like, I think he could play in the NFL. Like, I know he played a little bit at Michigan State.
The question is, I think Draymond's a defensive guy in football. I don't think he's like the assumption is because the body type he's a tight end. I think you put him on D because of the mindset. The AI thing, like, and I had a player who was a really good college football player and a great college football player and a very good NFL player too. Text me when I said I thought AI would be an all-pro, and the guy's like, no, like you got to be. Remember Ronald Curry? He looked like $1 million, but I'm like, the thing that made AI one of the best 50 NBA players ever is the thing that would have made him a pretty good football player regardless. Like the mindset, the mentality, and the guy's like, no, we talking about practice. and I'm like, I will die on this hill. Like AI would have made it in the NFL.
And I think for body types like AI, there were always guys like that who just were able to take a pound and never got hurt. One guy he reminded me of is kind of like Ward Dunn. If you notice, like Ward Dunn knew how to get hit. Like you never, like, as much as he ran between the tackles at his size, you would think that he would have, had a very, very short. But he made a career of knowing how to get down, knowing what, like it's a very uncanny and innate ability to be able to protect yourself on the football field. And I think Allen Iverson had that, like, and then you just saw him literally like, no, you don't go decleat and plant guys without being a football guy. And I don't care what nobody says. I'm down that.
Oh, yeah. All right. So who's the one, or like you said we're going to pick three. Okay. Who would you pick from the NBA today or past that you'd love to see play in either college football or the NFL?
Man, I would love to see Russell Westbrook. Love it.
Oh, yeah.
Could you imagine him coming downhill, sticking somebody, bro? Like A-gap, bro. I would love to see. I think his athleticism, the speed, he's a very explosive athlete. And I think that's one of the things that we always talk about, explosion and why does the vertical matter in the NFL? But it's just an explosion test because, as you know, Andy, like impact comes from your hips. And if you have that explosion, if you're able to create that within yourself, almost like your own bungee cord from the middle of your body, then you're usually one of those impact type football players. And I think Russell Westbrook has it in spades. Yeah, I would love to see him play safety.
Here's what else I'd love to see him play: triple option quarterback. Think about all the times you saw Russell Westbrook dribbling full speed from, getting through center court, getting to the top of the key, and he's looking in multiple directions to see, am I going to take this? Am I going to dish this off? Like, it is a triple option quarterback. That is the decision-making process. And he played it as physically as a triple option quarterback would play it. Like, that is perfect. Absolutely. That is, sure. He wasn't on my list, but he's perfect. Like, perfect.
Man.
Let's see. I'm trying to think of, Ant-Man would be, like we said, and you could do a couple different things with Ant-Man. Like, you could make Ant-Man a tight end. Right. You could make Ant-Man an edge rusher, like, because he's a dog.
Yeah. Man, could you imagine Ant-Man being a Mike patrolling the middle of the field, 6'4"?
At 245?
Come on, man. And flying flying everywhere he goes with bad intentions. And picking up the tight end where you don't have to bring the safety down. I got the tight end, don't even worry about it.
Now I do want to, like, let's go back to our image though of some of these dudes that like to be very dramatic. And I'll single this guy out because I watched him last night, Luka. And Luka played great last night. But can you imagine if you had Luka at tight end and you told him to go block, like go crack down on a D end? Man, Luka would get splattered trying to crack on a D end.
Man, could you, like, hey man, look, we need you to chip Chris Jones. You're right, bro. Like, yeah. So and let me tell you something. The NFL guys are so mad. That just tells you how aggressive they are. They are mad, bro, and they're all united. Like, I was really kind of scared about saying it the way I said it because I'm like, bro, I don't want nobody to get on me today. But no, man, like, I mean, there is a certain ilk of player that you have to have, or you have to be there. This class of player in the NBA that could do it. Every one of them, every guy that we name is a dog, and you see it, their aggression, and there's a certain level of that you have to have. And I gotta get what they're saying because now, like, we always talk about how soft the NBA is now, right? All the flopping and everybody wants to shoot threes, and you foul somebody, they go flying if you slap them on the arm. Like, that's not football. So I think there's a very few Now, I'm not saying that they can't. Like, what the hell Wemby gonna do on the football field, dog?
No. But Wemby's the example of when you get those mad NFL players, like, what are you talking about, Austin Rivers? Like, just let them see Wemby in person. They're gonna be like, oh, never mind.
Bro, look at that.
I'm out.
Man, can we go back to that? Look at that, bro. Like, when you talk about a real life Avenger, did you see his, like, watch his arm coming up here? Like, he looks like Fantastic Four. He looks like Plastic Man. Watch
the one picture we just showed, he's shooting over Nikola Jokic. Nikola Jokic is 6'10".
Bro, what? Yeah, exactly, bro. Man, that is crazy, man.
Oh,
like his arm,
but no, it's unbelievable. He is a real life superhero. But
yeah, for sure.
I just love, this is the perfect May topic for me. I love it. I'll give, before we go, we gotta run, but I'll give everybody one more. You'll appreciate it because you're as old as me.
Yep.
Blast from the past. If you don't know who this person is, I want you to look him up on YouTube. Charles Oakley in a Calais Campbell role.
Ooh. Oh, Oak would be so cold, bro. Oak scared. But, man, God bless him. Last one. Anthony Mason. Mace. Was he not a football player already?
He was. I saw him in summer league toward the end of his career. Like, I was interning at the paper in Atlanta in '99, and he was playing summer league, I think, for the Hornets at that point. Yeah. And this was when Jason Terry was a rookie and Baron Davis was a rookie, and Anthony Mason's just the old guy, just trying to make a roster at that point. And but you looked at him and you were like, nope, not driving on him.
Not going. Nope.
Oh, Dukes, this has been a pleasure. The memory, the shoe memory lane was tremendous. And now I'm going to handicap JuJu Lewis's recruitment purely by shoes. So I think I don't know if I'm overstating that. So, but that's how I'm going to do it from now on.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely, man. Next time you come on, I'm gonna have some real crazy for you. You're gonna be like, dang, Dukes, you got those? I got that. This is my thing. I love shoes. So every time I come on, I'm gonna show something different, something real crazy.
I appreciate it. Now I try to talk my son into Jordan 11 cleats for this football season.
Yeah,
he's like, nah, patent leather's too flashy. Can't do it.
I love it though, man. Because man, Andy, do you remember how we used to dream about stuff like that? Like the East Bay magazine, like, man, what if we could put cleats on those? Like, we always dreamed about stuff like this, and these guys just have it. It's crazy.
Our kids do not understand how lucky they are. No clue.
At all.
No. Dukes, it's been a pleasure. Enjoy your weekend. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, love, bro. Thank you.
Everybody, what a hell of a week. It just gets better, though. We got more coming. Cody Belair's back Monday. Ceiling and floor for every Big Ten team in 2024. That's right, all 18 of them. It's going to be fun. And then I'll be at ACC meetings next week. I'm sure there won't be any sort of strangeness, awkwardness with two of the schools suing the league suing two of the schools, Cal, SMU, and Stanford. We'll be there. It will be weird. Welcome to college football in 2024. We will talk to you on Monday.